Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Arthur. When your wife of 10 years looks you dead in the eye and says, "I want a divorce," something inside you shifts, whether you're ready for it or not. I thought I was ready. But the truth? I didn't expect to hear those words that day. They landed suddenly, yet deep down, they didn't surprise me. I had been living in silence long before she finally spoke them out loud. She probably assumed I'd fight for us, beg her to reconsider, or at least ask her why. Instead, I simply took a breath and said, "Okay." She didn't realize I had already let go. In the weeks before that moment, I was already running on empty. I had been covering extra shifts for a coworker on vacation. My days felt endless. And by the time I dragged myself home, I barely had the strength to keep my eyes open. All I could think about was peeling off my damp shirt, standing under a hot shower, and collapsing into bed. That night, I picked up a burger and fries on my way back. I didn't bother asking Sophia if she wanted something, because I already knew her answer. Meals at home had become a quiet, joyless routine. If they happened at all, she had stopped cooking. I had stopped asking. Our conversations were short and purely practical, like two colleagues forced to share an office. Honestly, it had been a long time since our house felt like a home. When I stepped through the door, Sophia walked in from the living room and said, "Hey, we need to talk." Those 5 words froze me in place. No husband ever wants to hear that from his wife. For weeks, she'd barely acknowledge me. I'd ask how her day went, and she'd mumble fine, without looking up from her phone. I had gotten used to walking into silence, so her sudden interest in conversation felt jarring. Still wearing my shoes, tie hanging loose, I muttered, "Can I just grab a quick shower first? It's been a long day." She shook her head. "No, this can't wait." So I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door, turned to face her and brace myself. She stood there with her arms folded, expression unreadable, and said, "I think we need a divorce." I didn't answer right away, not because I hadn't heard her, but because I needed a second to absorb how calmly she was dismantling something we had spent a decade building. Then she started listing her reasons. Our marriage felt empty, like we were just going through motions. We lacked intimacy. We no longer connected. She described us as strangers under the same roof. And maybe in some ways, she was right. But the way she painted it as a natural, mutual drifting apart, that stung, because I knew better. The lack of intimacy she described wasn't some accident. It was something she used like a weapon. Every time I said no to one of her reckless shopping sprees, I was punished with cold shoulders, turned backs, and rejection. I used to explain gently that money was tight, that we had to be careful. But she didn't want careful. She wanted indulgence. And when she didn't get it, she made me her enemy. Her anger was quiet but sharp. Passive-aggressive remarks, icy silence, little daggers slipped into ordinary moments. So, when she blamed our collapse on some vague loss of spark, I couldn't help but feel like she was rewriting history, casted herself as a victim of neglect. I asked her, "Do you really believe we can't fix this? Divorce is the only answer." She didn't hesitate. She just nodded, then walked to a drawer, pulled out a manila envelope, and handed me divorce papers already filled out, just waiting for my signature. I didn't plead. I didn't argue. I just looked at her and realized I didn't recognize the woman standing in front of me anymore. Maybe I hadn't for a long time. I picked up the envelope and headed to the bedroom. I needed that shower. As the water steamed around me, fog in the mirror, I let the hot stream pound against my back and closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I let myself think. Really think. We used to talk about everything. Now, we barely spoke unless it was to correct or criticize. Somewhere, the connection had snapped. I remembered one fight in particular. I had suggested couples therapy, and she laughed in my face. "You think I want to sit in a room and whine like some pathetic housewife?" she said. That laugh, mocking, dismissive, killed something inside me. After that, I stopped bringing it up. She always compared me to her friends' husbands. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't careless either. Still, nothing I did ever measured up. After a while, I stopped trying to check off her imaginary list. So when she asked for a divorce that evening, you expect I'd be crushed. But standing there in the steam, I realized I wasn't broken. I wasn't even sad. I was relieved. Her words didn't shatter me. They freed me. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't trying to repair something that didn't want to be repaired. I could stop pretending. By the time I stepped out, my chest felt lighter. I dried off, slipped into a clean shirt, and went straight to bed without saying a word. There was nothing left to say. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee like always, and sipped it slowly. I wasn't thinking about fixing anything. I was thinking about how to move forward. When I finally walked into the kitchen, Sophia sat scrolling on her phone. Calmly, I told her, I'll need a few days. I want my lawyer to review the papers before I sign. She nodded. That's fine. From that moment, she changed. Within days, she stopped coming home some nights. When she did, it was late. She started going out dressed like she was 20 again. I didn't need evidence to know what was happening. I just watched as the last crack split wide open. My lawyer later told me, this will be simple. No kids, no house, no joint savings. She already pulled her money months ago. The car is still on finance. A few kitchen appliances, that's it. He suggested small tweaks to protect me from hidden surprises. I wasn't out for revenge. I just wanted it finished. When I told Sophia, she seemed surprised I wasn't begging her to stay. She looked at me, searching my face, and finally said, So, you're not even going to fight for us? I leaned back, steady. No, there's nothing left to fight for if you've already made up your mind. You want out, Sophia. I'm just stepping aside. The truth is, I had already started mourning the marriage while still in it. I had been the one patching up silence, smoothing over her coldness, pretending her distance wasn't suffocating me. So when she pulled the trigger, I wasn't shocked. I was relieved. Even before the papers were finalized, I had leased a new place. Quietly, I packed my things and moved out, one box at a time. The day she finally agreed to the lawyer's terms, I was already gone. No mess, no drawn-out drama, just a clean break. And strangely, it was easy. Easier than I imagined it would be to legally walk away from someone who had once been my whole world. But maybe that's the point. I had already let her go long before. For the first time in months, I could sit in my own space without walking on eggshells, without negotiating for peace. Just silence. And that silence was golden. People ask why I didn't leave first, why I waited until she asked for divorce. The truth? I didn't want the guilt. I needed to know I had done everything I could. When she finally pushed things past repair, she gave me permission to stop fighting. And I thanked her for that. I didn't expect to see anyone from her circle again. I figured they'd paint me as a villain. So when I bumped into her best friend outside a grocery store, I braced for coldness. But instead, she said, Arthur, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. You were good to her. Some of us saw it. She just didn't. Her words caught me off guard. For the first time, someone from Sophia's side admitted I wasn't the bad guy. She even offered to help me settle into my new place. I politely declined, not wanting blurred lines. But her kindness planted a thought. How much of Sophia's bitterness had been hers, and how much had been fed by others? Months passed, and then one evening, I got a message from Sophia. Do you ever feel like maybe we rush things? I met her at a cafe. She confessed she had been influenced by that very best friend, the same woman who whispered in her ear about what she deserved, about how other women had it better, about not settling. But when Sophia spent more time with her after the divorce, she saw the cracks. That perfect husband her friend bragged about, loud, dismissive, controlling. She realized she had been comparing me to a fantasy. Her voice trembled when she said, I spent so much time comparing you to him, but you were the one actually there trying. Then she asked, Do you think there's any chance we could try again? I looked at her and answered, No, I don't want to go back. She sat there saying all the things I once begged to hear. I miss you. I didn't know how good I had it. I made a mistake. But now they sounded hollow, because I'd found peace. No more tension waiting at the door. No more silence at dinner. No more storm brewing beside me at night. Just quiet. Just me. And that was enough. I told her gently, I'm not angry, but I'm done. I can't go back to being someone's second choice. That chapter's over. She reminded me of the good times. I reminded her of the nights I felt invisible. She promised she'd change. I told her she had every chance when it mattered. I wished her well, and I meant it, because finally I was free.